I married a stranger to save my family. The day I married a stranger should have been the happiest day of my life. Instead, it became the day I lost my freedom. As I stood at the altar, my hands trembling inside white gloves, I looked at the man waiting for me. His name was Alexander Reed. I had known him for exactly 23 days. And yet, in less than a minute, I was about to become his wife. The guests smiled. The priest smiled. Alexander smiled. Only I knew the truth. I wasn't marrying for love. I was marrying to save my family. And what terrified me most was that Alexander seemed to know a secret about my family that I didn't. A secret that would change everything. My name is Olivia Carter. 6 years ago, my family's life collapsed almost overnight. My father owned a construction company. It wasn't huge, but it paid the bills. We had a comfortable house. My younger brother Ethan was preparing for college. Everything seemed normal. Then one morning, my father received devastating news. His business partner had disappeared, along with nearly all the company's money. Millions of dollars were gone. Loans couldn't be paid. Projects stopped. Within months, bankruptcy became unavoidable. I watched my father age 10 years in a single summer. The confident man I knew became exhausted and broken. Collection agencies called every day. The bank threatened to take our house. My mother cried when she thought nobody was looking, and Ethan started talking about dropping out of school. Every night I prayed for a miracle. I never imagined what form that miracle would take. One evening, my father asked me to attend a meeting. He seemed nervous. When we arrived at a luxury hotel downtown, I knew something was wrong. A tall man in a black suit waited inside a private room. His posture was perfect. His expression calm. His eyes unreadable. "This is Alexander Reed," my father said. We shook hands. His grip was firm. I sat down. Then Alexander said words that froze my blood. "I would like to marry your daughter." I laughed. Nobody else did. The room remained silent. My father lowered his eyes. My mother looked away. Suddenly, I realized they were serious. Alexander explained that his family could eliminate every debt, save our house, pay for Ethan's education, rescue the business. In exchange, he wanted to marry me. I stared at him. "Why?" He hesitated. Then he said something strange. "Because our families are connected in ways you don't understand." That answer only created more questions. For days, I refused. I argued. I cried. I screamed. I called the idea insane. But reality was cruel. The bank scheduled foreclosure. Ethan received a notice that he might lose his scholarship. My parents had no options left. One night, I found my father sitting alone in the dark. His eyes were red. "I failed all of you," he whispered. That moment broke my heart. I couldn't watch my family lose everything. 3 weeks later, I agreed. And 23 days after meeting Alexander Reed, I became his wife. The wedding was beautiful. Too beautiful. Everything felt like a movie. The flowers, the music, the expensive venue. Yet none of it felt real. I barely knew the man beside me. When the ceremony ended, guests applauded. But Alexander looked distracted, almost worried. That night, I woke up around midnight. His side of the bed was empty. I found him standing on a balcony. He held an old photograph. When he noticed me, he quickly hid it. "What was that?" I asked. "Nothing." He was lying. I knew it immediately. Then he said something even stranger. "Olivia, if anyone asks about your grandfather, be careful." My stomach tightened. What does that mean? He looked genuinely frightened. "Just trust me." Over the next few weeks, I became obsessed. Who was my grandfather? Why was Alexander afraid? Why had our families arranged this marriage? One afternoon, I searched through old boxes in my parents' attic. Hidden beneath dusty books, I discovered a stack of letters. The letters were over 30 years old. Every one of them was addressed to my grandfather, and everyone carried the same signature: William Reed, Alexander's grandfather. My hands shook as I read them. The two men had once been close friends, business partners, almost brothers. Then suddenly the letters stopped. Something had happened. Something terrible. That evening, I confronted Alexander. For the first time, he didn't avoid my questions. Instead, he opened a locked drawer. Inside was a thick file: photographs, documents, newspaper articles, and one shocking report. My grandfather had been accused of stealing millions from the Reed family decades earlier. I couldn't believe it. No, Alexander nodded sadly. That's what everyone believed. I felt sick. Everything I knew about my family suddenly felt uncertain. Then Alexander pointed to another document. The problem is, he was innocent. I stared at him. What? Alexander took a deep breath. The real thief was never caught. The next day, everything became even stranger. A black car followed me home. At first, I thought it was coincidence. Then I saw the same car again. And again. Someone was watching me. That night, our house alarm went off. Alexander rushed downstairs. A window had been broken, but nothing was stolen. Instead, a single envelope lay on the floor. Inside was a note: "Stop asking questions, or someone will get hurt." My hands began shaking. This wasn't family history anymore. Someone was scared and desperate. Over the following months, Alexander and I investigated together. Slowly, our forced marriage became a partnership. Then friendship. Then something deeper. For the first time, I saw the man behind the cold exterior. He wasn't arrogant. He wasn't controlling. He was protecting me. The more evidence we uncovered, the more dangerous things became. Eventually, one name appeared repeatedly. A name I recognized immediately: Uncle Richard, my mother's older brother. The man who always attended family gatherings. The man who hugged everyone and told jokes. The man everyone trusted. I refused to believe it. Until we found proof. 30 years earlier, Richard had secretly manipulated financial records. He framed my grandfather. Then he stole the money himself. When suspicion faded, he invested the funds through hidden accounts. Over decades, he became extremely wealthy. Nobody knew where the money came from. Nobody except Alexander's grandfather. Before dying, he discovered the truth. And he left evidence to Alexander. That was the real reason Alexander married me. Not because of an old promise. Because he believed Richard would target me if I learned the truth. Marriage was his way of protecting me. I sat in stunned silence. Everything suddenly made sense. The warnings, the fear, the secrets. When Richard learned we had evidence, he panicked. One night he called me. His voice sounded calm. Too calm. "Meet me alone," he said. Against Alexander's wishes, I went. I needed answers. Richard waited inside an abandoned warehouse. For a moment, he looked like the uncle I remembered. Then his expression changed. "You should have stayed out of this." His voice felt cold, empty, dangerous. I realized I was looking at a stranger. The man I trusted my entire life never truly existed. Then police sirens echoed outside. Richard's face turned pale. Alexander stepped into the warehouse. Behind him stood several officers. It was over. Richard was arrested that night. 30 years of lies finally collapsed. Months later, our lives finally became peaceful. The charges against my grandfather were officially cleared. My father's business recovered. Ethan finished medical school. My mother smiled again. The darkness that haunted our family disappeared. One evening, Alexander and I sat together watching the sunset. The same man who had once been a stranger now felt like home. I looked at him and laughed. You know, I never wanted to marry you. He smiled. I know. And I thought you were crazy. You weren't entirely wrong. We both laughed. Then his expression softened. Do you regret it? I looked at the man who had protected me, believed in me, fought beside me. The man who turned a sacrifice into a blessing. I took his hand. No, I whispered. Marrying a stranger was the best decision I ever made. And for the first time since our wedding day, I knew I was exactly where I belonged.